Alright, so for number one, 25 pi over 3, think the first thing to do is change the improper fraction to a mixed number. So 3 goes into 25 8 times. So 8 and remainder 1. So that means that you go around 1 pi, 2 pi, so 8 pi is going to land right here at 0, right? 8 pi. And 1/3 pi more would be right here. So the reference angle is pi over 3. Right here, this is pi over 3. So the answer is going to be radical 3 over 2. Alright, same thing with this one. You change it to a mixed number first. This is negative 9 and 1/4 pi. So you're going in the negative direction, so this is a negative 1 pi, negative 2 pi. So negative 9 pi is going to land right here because it's an odd numbered pi. And 1/4 more would be here. So this is the reference angle here is pi over 4. And so tangent in quadrant 2 at pi over 4 would be negative 1. Number 3, change it to a mixed number. That would be 3 and 5/6 pi. So you're going in the positive direction, 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi. 5/6 pi would be right here. The reference angle is this angle right here. It's pi over 6. So the coordinates here are radical 3 over 2, negative 1/2, remember, from the unit circle. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So the reciprocal of this number right here is 2 over radical 3, which becomes 2 radical 3 over 3. Okay, for number 4, you just have to make sure that you are in radian mode because it's a radian, not a degree, the angle. So you just is it tangent? Yes. Okay, so it's going to be 4 decimal places. So you put in tangent, make sure you have parentheses, pi divided by 8, close parentheses, and it's going to give you 0.4. And so it's asking you for rounding to 4 decimal places, so 4.1, 4.2. Alright, this is another calculator problem, so make sure that, again, you're in radian mode because pi over 7 is a radian, not a degree. Now, there is no cotangent button, right? But you know that cotangent and tangent are reciprocals of each other. So you are going to, there's 2 ways. You could do 1 divided by tangent of pi divided by 7. Again, make sure you put parentheses around the pi and 7. And then that's going to give you approximately 2.0765. The other thing you can do is you could put it in regular, like tangent divided by 7. And then it's going to give you an answer. And then hit the reciprocal key. So some calculators have this key, or I've seen some calculators have this key. So whichever other method you like, they give you the same answer. Alright, so here's a setup for number 6. This is number 6 in the original paper I gave you. It's number 8 now, okay, but this was number 6. You're looking for the length of W because that's the width of the river. And the one thing missing on the diagram is that this is a right angle. So with that, given this angle right here, 54 degrees and 140 feet from A to C, we can use tangent is opposite over adjacent. And so W is 140. Tangent 54. Now make sure you switch your calculator back to degree, because remember in the previous problem we were doing using radians. So switch it back to degree and then input this value. And so that would be rounded to 3 decimal places. That would be 192, approximately 192.693 feet. Alright, so this is number 7, the problem about the guy wire. And so you have a guy wire that runs from the ground to a cell tower. So this is a cell tower. And so you have 100 feet. And then the angle formed with the ground and the guy wire is 43 degrees. So this is 43. They're asking you for the length of the guy wire. That would be that one right there. And then again, this is our right angle. So now with the given information, the function we would use is sine. So sine of 43 is 100 divided by x. Remember how I've told you when the variable is in the denominator, this one and this one switch. So x equals 100 over sine 43. So that's approximately equal to 146 feet. Okay. Okay, for number 8, they tell you that A is 4, B is 3, so that means that C is 5. So it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. They're asking you to give cosecant of x. So cosecant of this angle right here. Remember, cosecant is a reciprocal of sine, and so sine is 3 over 5, so cosecant is 5 over 3. Alright, we know that tangent is negative here and here, and we know that sine is positive here and here. So the quadrant with the two lines or the two angles is this one. So theta is in quadrant 2. So we go ahead and draw our angle in quadrant 2. Here's theta. And so we form a right triangle to the x-axis. Remember, tangent is y over x. So this is 4, this is negative 3. So this is another 3, 4, 5 triangle. So this is 5. And so it's asking you for sine of theta. So that's y over r, so that's 4 over 5. And it's asking you for secant of theta. That's a reciprocal of cosine, so it would be 5 over negative 3. R over x. Alright, so number 10, cotangent is positive. So you know cotangent is positive here and here. And cosecant, which is the reciprocal of sine, is negative here and here. So then the quadrant with the two angles, or the two marks, is this one. So that's where you're going to draw your angle in quadrant 3. Okay, so here's theta. So you always draw the angle to the right angle, to the x-axis. Cotangent is x over y. And because it's quadrant 3, they're both negative. So negative 20, negative 21. When you do Pythagorean theorem, you get 29 right here. Okay? Just use your calculator, do Pythagorean theorem. So they're asking for cosecant, which is a reciprocal of sine. Okay? So sine would be negative 21 over 29. So cosecant would be negative 29 over 21. Alright, so the amplitude for this one is the A value, 4/5. The period is 2 pi over B. In this case, B is 2 pi. So both of those, that makes up B right there. So it's 1. The period is 1. Alright, so number 12, the amplitude is the absolute value of A. So right here, A is negative 7, right? So the amplitude is simply 7. And the period is 2 pi over 1. That's 2 pi. Alright, so number 13 is a phase shift. That's all they ask for. Now, a very common mistake that you guys were making was that you saw phase shift and you just automatically looked at this number and say, oh, the phase shift is pi. You didn't take this into account, the B value. Remember, when the B is inside the parentheses in the argument, you have to do C over B. Because what you're doing is you are setting the argument equal to 0 and solving for x. So when you do that, you get phase shift equals 2 pi over 3. And of course, because it's positive, x is positive here, when you divide by 3, it's to the right. Okay, so for number 14, you could think of cosecant x equal -1 as sine x equals -1, because the reciprocal of -1 is -1. So sine x is -1 right here. And so going from 0 to 2 pi, this is 3 pi over 2, right? Going from -2 pi to 0, so that's right here in the negative direction, that would be negative pi over 2. So these are the two values of x. And if you think of the graph, remember this is, we're looking for where sine x is -1. This is 2 pi. This is -1. So this point right here would be 3 pi over 2. Going this way, this point right here, where it's -1, would be negative pi over 2. So on the graph you can get it, or just by using the unit circle. Alright, so number 15, -2/3 is not a ratio associated with one of our special angles for cosine. And the giveaway, or that gives it away, is that it tells you to round off the number to 2 decimal places, right? Round off your answer in radians. So first off, you've got to make sure that you're in radians. And so our cosine of -2/3, remember that's a special case, and your calculator is programmed to give you that answer. So all you have to do is inverse cosine, again make sure you use parentheses, of -2 divided by 3, close parentheses, equals. And you input that into your calculator and you should get 2.30. Alright, number 16 is very similar. Arcsine of 2/3, again 2/3 is not a ratio associated with a special angle for sine. So inverse sine, and again be in radian mode, parentheses 2 divided by 3, close parentheses, and equals. And when you put that into your calculator, you should get 7.73 radians. Alright, so 17 is similar. Remember this here is another notation for arc. So these are the same arc, or this -1, as you know, are the same thing for inverse function. Okay, so your calculator is programmed. So you do inverse tangent, parentheses, -97 divided by 4, close parentheses, equal. When you put that into your calculator, you should get -1.53. And that makes sense because that angle -1.53 is in quadrant 4, but going in the negative direction. Alright, so 18, again, it's another inverse function, but this time they gave you a ratio that is associated with one of the special angles. So this is a number that all you guys should recognize, okay, for a tangent. So it's a -1, so we know that it's in quadrant 4 for tangent, inverse. It's in quadrant 4, and you know that it's going in this direction, right? So the angle, the reference angle for radical 3/3 is pi over 6, but since we're going in the negative direction, that angle would be -pi over 6.